deal gone wrong. We find the chaos, make it loud, and turn it to a song. From the boardroom to the feed, nothing escapes the light. The Bozo Report is here, and we're going all night. The Bozo Report, we live on the floor, hear us roar. The Bozo Report, let's go. Business buzz and so much more. Bozo's in the headlines every day. We break it down, we make you say. The Bozo Report is on the way. The Bozo Report. The Bozo Report. Let's go.
How you been, man? What's going on?
Doing good, doing good. Can't really
Down
complain
good,
about what's
down
going
good. You sound like you're from down south, brother. Oh, brother. Dude, it's been so long. Let me just say that. Only the OGs will remember us. That was a fun time. That was a crazy time. The fucking technology is light years better than where it was years ago. Like, let me just say that. Like, the technology for recording, the technology for distribution has gotten so much better, and I've been keeping close tabs on it, that now I'm at the point where I'm like, we gotta fucking jump in, right? Because this technology's gotten so much better. One of the tools we were talking about offline was Riverside, like just with recording. If you have a call on Riverside with two people, right? Let's say it's me and you. My portion of the audio is recorded locally. So if I get hit offline or I live in the fucking sticks or I have to worry about like a Mossad attack or something and getting hit offline or the Iranians coming after me,
But isn't it created in Israel?
what's
Isn't
up?
it created in Israel anyway? So
Oh, that's anti-Semitic. That's
why would they attack
incorrect.
themselves?
That's super anti-Semitic. I'm not going to stand for that. You cannot say that. So if the Iranians decide to hit me offline because I was critical of the Ayatollah and his sexual proclivities, put it that way. So my half of the audio is recorded locally on my device, and then your half of the audio is recorded locally on your device, which is so fucking sick because if for whatever reason you lose Wi-Fi or if you're hardwired and you just lose connectivity, it will keep recording. So then when you go to edit, it's like, oh, this is super easy to edit. It's like I have the two audio tracks. Let me just splice them together and cut out the parts where, hey, I might have been removed from the call or you might have been removed from the call. So anyway, it's pretty cool, and there's a lot
But
of
what
cool
happens when
shit going
like
on with tech.
what happens when like two people are talking at the same time and it's like mixed audio on each side?
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's actually a valid point. The big thing is like when you're on a call, any of these internet calls, so even some of these shows that we see on YouTube, right? Like Piers Morgan does Piers Morgan Uncensored, and if you listen to his show or you watch the video on YouTube, it's quite interesting because Piers is clearly on a set. He's got like this big fucking glass table that looks like it's out of ESPN, First Take or whatever. But then the guest is on screen, so the guest joins via Zoom call and is almost never in studio in England recording with Piers Morgan. So what will happen commonly is like due to the latency, Piers and the guest will constantly interrupt one another. It's super annoying. And that's just unfortunately something you run into when you record online or you do a podcast. And I mean, we've ran into this issue a million times where it's like I'm saying something, but then you're saying something, and it gets all fucked up. So, it really is like you got to get in a rhythm and understand each other's cadence. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, anyway, I mean, a lot of crazy shit's going on with technology. I mean, AI is just generating a ton of disruption. Claude Mythos is coming out soon, and apparently, allegedly, hypothetically, in a video game, Claude Mythos found day zero vulnerabilities in the existing cybersecurity infrastructure to the point where if this AI model is released to the public, it would just destroy all existing cybersecurity. Like, I don't know if that's marketing on Anthropic's side or if that's legit, but like, if even 10% of that is true, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
but that threat
Like,
was
that's
already here.
fucked. What's up?
That threat was already here. It's just making it more accessible to people that
Yeah,
don't really know
you're
about
right.
cybersecurity.
You're right. A lot of this technology has been around forever. Like one of the points I made previously when we were talking offline, I'm going to test you right now. Let's see if you remember that. We had this conversation a long time ago. When do you think the first virtual reality patent was filed?
Maybe like 1950.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, you remember what I told you. It was 1958. So that was the point of like, you know, people were thinking, oh, Oculus and Palmer Luckey, like, wow, they came up with the Oculus or like HTC Vive or any of these other headsets, like, oh, that was like a 2010, 2011 thing. But it's like, no, they didn't come up with this technology. It existed before then. Some parts of the government were already actively working on this technology, and then it just reached the phase of commercialization, which is where businesses prop up around the tech, and then the final stage of it is retail adoption. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this, but my theory with technology is as follows. The first phase is like governmental slash academia research, which is to say the government and then via the government through grants, universities and academics will research the technology and see if it's viable. And then once there are enough studies that show, hey, this technology is viable, here's the potential application, businesses get involved, right? And VCs will back businesses that want to build in this new technological space. So the second phase is commercialization, which is businesses propping up around this technology as it emerges. And then the third phase is always retail adoption. So the two things that come to mind for me in this specific example, the first is like the most obvious, like the biggest thing ever, the internet. The internet was created by Tim Berners-Lee and MIT researchers and scientists. So again, government slash academia, on the academia side, they're academics. So they're phase one. Phase two would be businesses that prop up around the internet. And then phase three would be retail adoption, like us fucking normies, like regular people using the internet, right? And then the second example I always like to point to for people is that you could look at computers. The first computers were built by the government. The second phase of computers is like Microsoft and all these other different businesses like IBM building these computers for just corporate use. And then the third phase is like the personal computer, which is everyone having access to a computer at home, a laptop, smartphone, and being able to do whatever with it. So those are the three phases, and whatever. That's my current prevailing theory on technology at the moment.
Well, the internet, the internet was actually developed by the precursor to DARPA.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing too. Dude, did you ever hear of the Facebook conspiracy with DARPA? That's a pretty wild one to go down.
Now, what happened with Facebook and DARPA?
Oh boy. Okay,
That's
so
funded by them or something
well,
like more
so
sinister?
so the current prevailing conspiracy theory with Facebook and DARPA is that so Facebook launched, right, on February 4th, 2004. So you're like, okay, February 4th, 2004, Facebook is released. Okay. That same day, DARPA had a project called LifeLog that shut down. LifeLog was intended to create an all-knowing diary to end all diaries. And the idea is that people would go on to LifeLog and voluntarily share information about their life with other people. That sounds a little familiar. Like, that sounds a little too close to Facebook, doesn't it? LifeLog
Oh,
aimed
well,
to
but yeah.
compile a massive electronic database of every activity and relationship a person engages in. This was to include credit card purchases, websites visited, the content of phone calls and emails sent and received, scans of faxes and post mail sent and received, IM sent and received, books and magazines read, television and radio stations listened to, and physical location data recorded using GPS sensors and biometric data captured through wearable sensors. The high level goal of this data was to identify preferences, plans, goals, and other markers of intentionality. Doesn't that sound like Facebook?
Pretty much. I mean, because
That's fucking Facebook, bro. Like if you just rip that paragraph I read and I didn't tell you what the name of the service was and I said, "What modern day service do you think that is?" You'd say, "Bro, that's Facebook. Activity status, relationship status, tracking your spending and showing you targeted or personalized ads." Bro, that's literally Facebook, right? Or am I nuts?
no, I mean it's not nuts. I mean, like you said before, I mean certain commercial products. I mean they develop and take their things from governmental research, and they kind of have to because early adoption systems they don't really have ways to monetize. So you need to have this research in place first to like push the needle forward, and then the commercialization can happen later on once they find a way to monetize it. So
Yeah.
I mean, it does make sense, but I mean, it's a little conspiratorial. I mean, there's really no evidence of it, but I mean, it does make sense. The timelines match up, as you said, like 2004.
It's just way too coincidental. Just to put it bluntly and to put it plainly, it really truly is just way too fucking coincidental for me to the point where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't make any sense. But there's something else that's going on that to me is way too fucking coincidental. And I'm sure you've seen this because you're like me, you like to be well informed and stay on top of everything. But there's this fucking Hantavirus going around now, and these fucking retards on cruise ships got it, and they're spreading it. And now people got off the cruise
Like
ship.
the hentai, like the fucking anime.
No, not hentai. Oh my God, yo, you're like a fucking gooner, bro. Hentai is Japanese porn. No, so it's called the hantavirus, and basically it's this virus that rodents carry, and if you are exposed to their urine or fecal matter, or if they fucking bite you, which is real gnarly, it's transmissible to people, and this thing has like a 30% fatality rate. So this is some fucked up shit, right? Like if you think of it like this, if you
Yeah, I
know
mean,
10
but
people that get
it's like
this
Ebola
fucking
had a high vitality rate too. I mean,
right,
but
but the thing with
there's
Ebola,
systems and stuff that develop over time to negate the fatality rate.
but
Like
the
they'll come out
thing,
with vaccines and stuff like that.
right, but the thing for Ebola though was that it was super obvious when people had Ebola. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they would bleed out of their fucking eyes, right? That was like the tell. So if you're standing in line at a fucking airport waiting to go through the TSA check and there's some guy behind you and he just starts fucking bleeding out of his eyeballs, dude's got Ebola. It's super obvious, right? That's where this might differ though, because apparently people aren't showing symptoms right away and it's taking them a few days. But what I don't understand is, okay, there was a guy on the cruise ship that had hantavirus, right? And by the way, cruise ships are like they're like a fucking petri dish because of all the common areas. They use resurfaced air. So what that is to people who don't know is cruise ships will pump air from one room into another room. They just recycle the air and it keeps which by the way, like if there's a pathogen in the fucking air, that air then gets recycled into another room, and then that air is recycled into the next room. So it's like if there's a really nasty pathogen in the air, everyone's going to get sick. Like it's super obvious, right?
What are the
Because you're,
symptoms of this? Is this like COVID?
well, I don't even know what the symptoms are at this point, but you get weak, shortness of breath. Some people are getting
What
like
do I mean
heart
you get weak?
palpitations. You're weak. You're physically weak. You can't really move around. You're not as
But like the
mobile.
flu, you
You're
weak, you get
tired.
weak.
Yeah, it basically is similar to the flu. That is my understanding of this virus. I did not know what the fuck this virus was until like a week or a week and a half ago, and it
So why
is
do you
now
say it's such a high
spreading.
vitality rate if it's the flu?
The symptoms might be similar to the flu, but the fatality rate is a lot higher, and it's like 35%. You should
I was
look
reading,
this
I
up.
heard that it's like a side effect to the vaccine.
Well, that's just conspiratorial. We all know that Big Pharma wants us all happy and healthy and living forever. Why would Big Pharma want to get us sick? Do you really think that Big Pharma wants to get us sick and keep us on lifetime long subscription plan. I mean, come on. It's not like that will boost their valuation, right?
I mean,
I mean, come on.
if you
You're
read the
being way too conspiratorial right now.
I'm being conspiratorial, but I mean, if you read Pfizer's mRNA vaccine, right, their own documents, they say infection from hantavirus as a side effect.
This new virus, this new hantavirus that's going around, the whole story is that there was this cruise ship, and it was in South America, and I guess it was by Patagonia and whatever, and they have all these cruises that go all over the world. It's actually kind of cool. You could do a cruise to Antarctica, you could do a cruise to Europe, you could do a cruise that goes, all the way around the southern tip of South America, and you could see the Patagonia mountains. It's like some cool stuff, right? So anyway, one of the passengers supposedly, allegedly, hypothetically in a video game in a vacuum, is a British person that went bird watching and for whatever reason traveled to a dump. A dump. The person was standing in a dump to bird watch. And that is at the point in which it is alleged that the person got bit by a rat and contracted the virus and then said, I feel sick, I feel shitty, I'm going to go on a cruise ship. And then other people started to get this virus even though they weren't in contact with rodents. So this particular virus, this hantavirus, in most cases, it actually is not transferable from person to person, but for whatever reason, there's a particular variant of this virus where it is transferable through the air, where it is an airborne virus, and one person can get another sick from coughing or sneezing onto a surface, and then the other person fucking touches it, or someone fucking sneezes at you or coughs at you, which you should just be able to like knock someone's fucking lights out if they fucking sneeze on you. That's insane, you know? That's like it nuts. Like imagine someone standing in your grill and they go, "Achoo!" and they're so retarded they can't lift their fucking right or left arm up and sneeze into their fucking elbow. They're like such a fucking retard. They're just blowing their fucking snot boogers in your face. You should be able to
The
punch someone's
worst is when the
lights out
snot
if they
comes out.
fucking do that. That's crazy. That's
The
just
worst is when
like,
the snot comes out, though.
oh yeah,
They
yeah,
blow
it's
it in the
like
phone.
these fucking thick, gooey, like fucking snot rockets. The funniest thing is
When I
when people
sneeze, like
sneeze.
no water or anything it comes out. Right? It's just like a sneeze. That's it.
No,
See, some people they fucking shoot. They shoot like fucking like.
they got like
they
fucking
shoot.
bro, they got like fucking Shahed drone fucking snot rockets just fucking zooming right out of their nostrils. That's an Iran war reference
Missiles,
for those out there that are keeping up to
straight
date with the
missiles,
Iran war.
javelin missiles getting fucking blown right out of
They
their
got
fucking
fucking
nose.
J dams fucking fucking shooting snot rockets out of their nose. And all in your grill too. And it's like when people do that, it's like you should legally be allowed to just like beat the crap out of someone if they do that. Like honestly, I think that should be on the table, you know. That would be one of the platforms I run on. If someone sneezes on you, you should be able to like just fucking open hand bitch slap them or
Well,
just
that's
punch
assault.
them right in the grill.
That's
But
assault right there. Someone sneezes on you.
oh, absolutely. If someone spits on you, it's assault, right? So um oh, speaking of assault, oh my God, this was a big story. Nick Fuentes, did you hear about this? You hear
Oh,
what
I
was
saw
going
that
on
he
with Nick
pushed the
Fuentes
lady.
pretty
The
recently?
lady went up to his steps and he pushed her.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have the video. I can play it here if you want. It was so fucking funny. For those of you who don't know, obviously, I mean,
Or give him pepper spray.
I I think at this point everyone knows who Nick Fuentes is. But what I just want to say is that basically after the election, he tweeted out something to the effect of your body, my choice, instead of my body, my choice. He put up your body, my choice, right? So all the people who are obviously pro-abortion and feminists had a huge issue with the fact that he put that up on Twitter. And the tweet went mega viral, like hundreds of millions of views, tens of thousands of replies, people, you know, calling for his death. It was crazy. He got like death threats against him. And he put up a tweet like if you're offended by a tweet, like you should just blame your parents for raising a pussy. I mean, let's just keep it 1,000. He could have said something that offended me, And I wouldn't have given a shit because it's a fucking tweet. It's one person's opinion. Who the fuck cares? And he's a provocateur. I mean, let's call it what it is. He loves getting people riled up. He's a rabble rouser. Like, that's who he is, right? Like, he's very good at egging people on and getting them to, like, just fucking explode. And he obviously finds, some kind of amusement in that as well. So anyway, he put this tweet up, your body, my choice. So people dox him and they find out where he lives and they go to his house and they're knocking on the door. They're like yelling shit. Cars are driving by. They're honking. He actually came out and claimed that like 300 people, within the day of his address being leaked online, 300 people either drove by, rode by on bikes, were throwing shit at his house, walking by and yelling shit. Like, so he says 300 people, which makes sense because he's from Chicago and it's like a very populated area. So one lady decides to take it a step further. Some 50-something-year-old woman decides that she's going to go up to his door, knock on his door, and get him to come outside and interact with him. So this interaction was caught on a Ring camera, which makes it all the more funny because she walks up his stairs, goes to his front door, rings the doorbell. He slightly opens the door so it's ajar, and then he sprays her in the face with pepper spray, realizes it isn't working because it's an expired can of pepper spray. So then he just shoves her, boop, and he just tosses her like a sack of potatoes down the stairs. And then after she's on the floor, he walks over to her, picks her phone up off the ground, and then goes back in his house.
Hi. Oh my God! What are you doing?
Look at this.
Oh my god.
He goes, "Get the fuck out of here!" And he grabs her phone, look, and then stops up the stairs, slams the door. Here, look at this. She got like fucking
Hi.
yeeted. Look at
Oh
this.
my God! What are you doing?
Look, fuck out of here. It's crazy, right? Oh man,
Get the fuck out of here.
get the fuck out of here. So funny too, because he has a Chicago accent, so it made it all the more funny. People from Chicago, they talk like that. It's funny. So he's like, "Get the fuck out of here." Anyway, so the reason I bring this up is that I think potentially he could run into some major fucking issues here, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he could run for office.
I think that he could run for office, but I don't think he would win because I think that he's way too polarizing. He does have a strong base of support on the far right, particularly on like the far right nationalist side, but I think he would have trouble appealing to moderates. Basically, with this battery case being dropped, like I said, it was dropped civilly. Excuse me, rather, it was dropped criminally, but civilly, the case is still going on. And this is something that I just was thinking about, and it dawned on me. He can potentially run into a ton of issues because he has been calling out many of these billionaires that do not align with his message whatsoever. He's been critical of Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running for governor of Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy, very
He
critical
ran
of.
for president at one point too, I think.
Yes, he did. He ran for president in 2024. Wasn't he considering in 24 or something? Before Trump announced, I think he was considering running for president, right? And he was a part of the debates, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then I think DeSantis
Yeah.
was as well. That was 24, right? Because they
Yeah,
weren't sure
2024,
if
yeah.
Trump was going to run again after 2020.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Vivek obviously, was in the pharmaceutical industry, sold his company, is a billionaire, made a lot of money in that space. So that's one enemy he's already made. Like just putting that out there, right? Another guy he's been very, very critical of, who was actually really close with Vivek, is Peter Thiel. Nick Fuentes has been very critical of Peter Thiel. He's been very critical of Palmer Luckey. So that's three billionaires right there. And the biggest billionaire that he has been unbelievably critical of is Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle, and his son David Ellison, who owns Paramount, right? Which is Skydance, Paramount. So he's made a lot of enemies. And the one thing that I would be very careful or a little wary of if I were Nick Fuentes is that, I mean, let's look at Peter Thiel, for example, right? Peter Thiel famously backed Hulk Hogan when Hulk Hogan was suing Gawker. Hulk Hogan sued Gawker because they released footage from inside his house, security footage. They leaked it to the public where Hulk Hogan was like, "Oh, I don't want my daughter dating a black guy." He said that in private in his own home, and it got caught on security cameras. And whoever was from the security camera company leaked that footage to Gawker, and then they ran a story about it. And then Gawker had another story that they were running at the time where they outed Peter Thiel for being gay, right? So they revealed that Peter Thiel was gay when he was low key about it. And because of that, Peter Thiel had an axe to grind with Gawker. So he basically financed Hulk Hogan's entire lawsuit to basically sue Gawker into oblivion and get them shut down. And that's exactly what happened. Based on that, I would think that, I mean, obviously Nick Fuentes is younger. I believe he's 26 or 27. He probably doesn't remember any of this, but that was a huge landmark case where Hulk Hogan won hundreds of millions of dollars from this. And Peter Thiel was like, I have an axe to grind with Gawker. I want them shut down. You know, in his mind, they outed him, which, you know, they did. They outed him for being gay. He didn't want the world to know that he was gay. You know, he was in the closet, so it was like he had a shit fit, and he just was like, "Fuck it, I'll pay for all your lawyers, I'll pay for all your legal expenses. I'm a billionaire. I just want these fucking people shut down." So, with that in
But Peter
mind,
Thiel backs a lot of people.
he does. Yeah, he
He
does.
has a
Yeah.
lot of financial backing. Like, I mean, he's got a lot of influence.
Yeah, I would think that this is someone that you definitely do not want to piss off.
He got a whole fund where he backs stuff, and then he backs like politicians. He backs like lawsuits. He's a very influential dude.
I'll put it to you this way, and this is what I've heard through private channels, and I do want to give full disclosure here to the listeners, but anything I hear through private channels is largely unverified, but it's coming from people who I trust. And it comes from people who are usually pretty correct about these things. And what I've seen in my interactions with these people who relay this information to me, and then I kind of go, okay, well, that's interesting. I don't really think much about it or put much faith in it. I noticed that maybe a year or two later, it's public, which is pretty wild. So this is what I've heard allegedly, and again, unverified, but coming from people who have shared this information directly with me. Supposedly, Trump was visited by Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and they both lobbied him on why he needed to pick J.D. Vance to be the vice president. And J.D. Vance worked for Peter Thiel at Founders Fund, I believe. And that's what Vance did right out of college. Vance went to Yale, where he was friends with Vivek Ramaswamy, and the two of them built rapport, you know, and then they're still really good friends. Like I think even JD Vance's son is named Vivek after Vivek Ramaswamy. So they're both really close. They're both Yale guys, Yale graduates. But supposedly after college, JD Vance went to go work for Peter Thiel, and he was a part of the VC, and then decided to get into politics. And Peter Thiel built him up and donated money and funded his campaigns and helped him get involved in politics. So apparently from day one, JD Vance was always Peter Thiel's guy. Like it was always his guy, like his politician basically, because he funded him, he built all the resources, he built him up, he connected him with all these different people. And it's like, oh no, this is our Republican Silicon Valley figure. That's what JD Vance was built up to be. And this is not my opinion. This is what was told to me. And again, I was also told that Trump had a meeting where Elon and Peter Thiel sat him down and they were like, we don't know who you're considering for VP, but you need to pick JD Vance. And here's why. They laid their reasons out. And supposedly it was enough for Trump to go, okay, fine, he's the VP. So I don't know if it's like Elon saying, if you pick Vance, I'm going to give you hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign financing, or whatever the story was, but that's what was told to me.
Damn. So basically, since he picked Vance, he got their backing. Otherwise,
Exactly.
Elon Musk, because I remember like he got shot, then Elon Musk came out and said like, "Oh, I back Trump." Was that around the same time that Vance was picked as the vice president?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Trump got um you're referring to Butler, the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So the date of that was I'm pretty good with stuff like this. This is where like my undiagnosed autism comes in very handy. That was July 13th, 2024. So yeah, that was around the same time.
Vance is very like establishment kind of guy. Like Trump is more like anti-establishment.
Yeah,
I
totally.
guess they kind of do go together if you want to get both sides of the vote.
At one point, Vance was a never Trumper. He came out and he was like, Donald Trump is an idiot. I don't know why anyone would support him. And I believe he did this in 2020, if you want to go back and look. Senator J.D. Vance will officially be joining Donald Trump on the Republican ticket this fall, but he didn't always have kind words for his running mate. In the year before Trump took the Oval Office, Vance, who once described himself as a never Trump guy, was quick to criticize the former president, using words like idiot and even Hitler to describe Trump.
That's
When
classic
have
politics,
you,
though.
what,
These stupid ass
true,
trans references they use.
that's very
They
true.
want to call everybody Hitler and shit.
When have you ever seen anyone speak super negative about Trump publicly and then he wants to work with them after? He's just been like, that person's a total loser. He or she's a fat slob, loser, piece of shit. Fuck them, blah, blah,
Or
blah.
Little Marco. Remember Little Marco?
Yeah, but yes, but they were going back and forth in the Republican primary, and that was in 2016. But what did Marco say to Trump? Like, I don't think he was super critical of Trump, right? Like, they were going at each other, but he was calling him Big Donald, and Trump was calling him Little Marco. So I don't know. I mean, other than like just kind of schoolyard banter, did I don't think Marco Rubio called him Hitler, right?
No.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Like Marco Rubio never called him Hitler. He never insulted him for being stupid. Like they just went back and forth. It was like playground insults. And Trump was probably more forgiving towards Rubio because Trump was shitting on everyone, and then he probably respects Rubio because it's like Trump was attacking everyone. Oh, Lion Ted, Little Marco, and all these other people. Low Energy Jeb, that was another great one. So, he was attacking all these people, but the reality is Marco went back at him. So Trump started it by calling him Little Marco, and then Marco Rubio said something back to him and was like, fucking like going at him. But it's not like Rubio called him Hitler. You see what I mean? I feel like that's probably a place where once you call someone Hitler or you call someone the Antichrist, that's probably, you burn the bridge, for lack of a
Well, I mean,
better term.
Trump does think he's Christ, though. If you look at the picture, he made himself into Christ.
Trump posts this photo on Truth Social, his social media platform, where he is very clearly depicted as Jesus. Like it's not even up for debate. It's a guy standing there with red and white robes on, like Jesus wore, and he's healing someone who's laying in a bed sick. And Trump's excuse was, oh, well, I thought it was a doctor. Yeah, okay. What doctor have you seen wearing red and white robes? I mean, come on. That's crazy, right? I know
He
you
said it
don't
was the
believe that
doctor
for
for
a
the Red
second,
Cross.
but do you believe that for a second? Come on. How is that the
Oh,
Red
not for
Cross?
1 second. No,
No,
he
he
thinks he's
fucking put that
Christ.
shit up because he's got like a god complex, basically. He's a fucking egomaniac.
Trump is an asshole.
You don't like him?
Nah, he's total asshole.
So I know at some point you did support Trump and you loved him, but are you now in the camp of like because of the Iran war, you're off the Trump train, or now you're more critical? Where does the Iran war factor into your assessment of Trump and his presidency this time around? compared to the last one.
Oh, it's right there. I mean, he's Israel's buddy.
So
He's
you
fighting a war that he shouldn't even be in.
so you think that he's completely psyoped, he is completely controlled by Israel?
Oh, 1,000%.
As Patrick Bet David loves to
Now
say,
I'm paying like
if you
$5
pay
in gas
very close
prices for
attention
this
to
guy.
the market and the marketplace of ideas, most people right now that were Trumpers that are younger, let's say younger people, when I say that, let's say under the age of 35, most people who were on the Trump train who were younger, they're now saying, hey, this guy might be compromised. Like, why is he so quick to get into a war with Iran when he ran one of the key issues he ran on for his platform was no new wars in the Middle East. Why is he so quick to go after Iran, right? That doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean, no sense at all. I mean, he's going to war with Iran. He's not fucking ending the war in Ukraine that he's supposed to end. He said he would end it within 30 days, something like that. I remember him making that promise.
Whenever we say something, trust but verify, right? That's a really good phrase. And I think that that's how most people should operate. Trust but verify. Trump came out and he said before getting elected, he's like, if I were president, I would end the war in Ukraine within 48 hours of taking office. That is what he's on the record as saying.
Yeah, 48 hours. Yeah, exactly. I thought he said 30 days, but he said 40, even worse. He said 48 hours. He didn't end the war in Ukraine. He's fighting a war in Iran that he shouldn't be fighting. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing with gas prices. He's supposed to be releasing the strategic reserves to bring down the gas prices, paying like $5 in gas. I'm going through like 2, 3 tanks of gas a week. That's like 120, $130 in fucking gas.
You're spending 120 or $130 a week in gas right now?
Yeah,
That's
I go
crazy.
through like 2, 3 tanks of gas a week.
Holy shit.
Boy, how
Wow.
many times you fill up?
I fill up twice a week and I fill up when I'm at half a tank. And my MPG is very good because most of my mileage is highway miles, because I'm constantly traveling. So I get like 35 miles per gallon, which is fucking awesome. So my car is very fuel efficient. $50 a week, $60 a week, something
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness,
It's like nothing for me.
it's a lot.
Well, $50 a week is not that bad.
It's still a lot. It is.
It adds up. It definitely adds up for sure. But I was operating with the assumption that I was spending, whatever, 200 or $220 a month on gas. So that's really not that far off if you think
Well,
about
that's all
like my
because
math.
the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
They're not fucking opening the Strait of Hormuz. It's like fucking battleships and shit. They say like it's open. It's open. It's not open. Fucking Iran's firing bullets at ships that are coming through.
With no end in sight, I mean, they signed the ceasefire, they extended it, they're trying to make a peace deal, they're not getting anywhere. And Iran knows that and I really hate to say this and it hurts me to say it, but even though we destroyed their Navy and their Air Force, all Iran has to do is just choke the global economy. It's the threat that keeps it closed because the ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, they all have insurance. And the underwriters for the insurance are either Chubb
Lloyd's of
or
London.
Lloyd's of London. Those are the two biggest, Chubb and Lloyd's of London. So these ships go back and forth carrying barrels of oil. Sometimes actually before the conflict, it was like 60 ships a day were going through the Strait of Hormuz. And the underwriters, like insurance carriers, won't underwrite ships going through the Strait of Hormuz just based on the fear of the ship getting blown the fuck up, right? Because it's a cargo ship carrying oil with just, civilians on it. And the civilians aren't going to risk their life. The insurance doesn't want to take the risk.
Well,
That's the
Trump was
main
saying that he
point.
was going to insure it.
Yeah, no one, if you notice, no one took the government up on that
Why?
because no one wants to get blown the fuck up. If you're Joe Smith and you're the captain on a U.S. cargo ship that's going into the Strait of Hormuz, going to the UAE, picking up oil, and then passing back out through the Strait of Hormuz, do you want to risk getting blown the fuck up by a fucking $20,000 suicide drone?
No.
Right. So exactly, you're gonna go fuck this. We're not going, right? So it's the threat of getting bombed that is keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed. That's the reality. And that's what most Americans don't realize, and I believe that's what Trump doesn't realize, is that People aren't going to take the risk. The other thing is Iran has a very robust missile infrastructure that is based underground. This is American intelligence agencies have made this public. This is public information, people. Iran built these elaborate underground missile facilities where they make ballistic missiles down there. They are these $20,000 one-way suicide drones. They have cluster munitions that they've been working on that they hit Tel Aviv with pretty recently before this ceasefire. Well, we have bunker busters, right? We have planes that could fly over, B-2s that could fly over and just drop these missiles, and the missiles go 200 meters underground and then blow up, right? So like, oh, that's easy. We could just do that like we did to their, Iran's nuclear facilities. Well, some of the missile infrastructure and these underground missile cities, in some cases, they're 400 meters underground. And we don't have bunker busters that can go that far down into the fucking ground. So how do you get rid of that? And the point is you can't. You can't.
Troops on the ground.
That's it. That's it. That's the only option. So the only option is to go boots on the ground and do a ground invasion, which most Americans are largely against. No one's on board with that whatsoever. And that would be a colossal mistake. That would be a monumental fuck up. And by the way, if the US government elects to do that, we don't have the manpower. We don't have the numbers. I actually was just looking at this data the other day. We have
What are you talking about?
450. We don't have the numbers
We have
to
a
do a
selective
full
service.
scale. We don't have the numbers. Well, I was going to get into this in a second. I'm going to get into that. I know we have selective service, but I'm going to get into this in a minute. If you look at the numbers of active duty troops we have right now, and you look at the reserves, we have 450,000 active duty troops. And we have another 200,000 in the reserves. That brings us to 650,000. The IRGC, which is the army, it's the Iranian army, they have like 1.2 million soldiers. People don't understand. Iran has 90 million people, 4 times the size of Iraq and twice the size of Texas. So it's a giant country, and it's very mountainous, and the terrain is inhospitable in some cases. Back to what you were saying though with selective service, like we could do selective service, right? But what is that? To people listening, they're like, what is when you turn 18, you have to register for selective service. Selective service is just a fancy way of saying you have to register for the draft. And if they do a draft, then they have to be able to contact you, and then you have to serve in the military if you're one of the unlucky, lottery winners for the draft. I mean, that's pretty much how it works. If we do a draft, like a lot of people don't want to fight in this war because they don't feel that we're justified in being over there. There are a lot of people that don't believe that Iran had any nuclear capability. It's been said for a long time. I mean, and this isn't controversial to say, this isn't a conspiracy theory. Israel has said there are a dozen clips of Benjamin Netanyahu speaking in front of the UN dating back to 2001, or even in some cases the late 90s, where he's saying Iran is 2 weeks away from building a nuclear weapon. And he just keeps repeating the same fucking thing for the last 25 years. It's absolutely nuts. And have you seen those clips, dude?
Yeah, they're all over the internet.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to seek this information out, it's out there where you could clearly see Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, Iran is 2 weeks away from building a nuclear bomb. We need to stop them. Da, 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 da. So I don't know if they were building a nuke, but they are now. They have to be building a nuke right now, don't you think?
Of course.
They're facing an existential
They don't
threat.
even want them having missiles. Like,
Right.
what country is gonna allow another country to tell them they can't have missiles?
So I have a question for you on that. Do you think that the US is negotiating in bad faith on purpose?
No, I mean, war is all about disinformation. It's all like a dog and pony show. So I mean, if there's another reason for the war and they don't want it to end, yeah, they could be doing that, like to satisfy the public. Like, oh, they're negotiating, and Iran's being unreasonable.
And I'm going to ask you to take out your Alex Jones tinfoil and make a nice hat out of it right now for what I'm going to say. I'm inclined to believe, like you said, one of the demands for the US to make a peace deal with Iran is for them to stop developing nuclear weapons, so no nuclear enrichment, and to stop building their ballistic missile program. And like you said, no sane country is going to just stop building missiles. Like, that's not how it works. So, do you feel that the US is including that demand because they're intentionally negotiating in bad faith, knowing that the public will say, oh, well, we proposed a deal to Iran and they didn't accept it, so, they're evil. Oh, okay, well, we have to escalate this further. You go, look, this guy's unreasonable. He doesn't want to compromise. He doesn't want to come to a deal. We can't reason with these people.
Maybe
So
it's
then
about
if
draining
we
out the oil
can't
supply.
reason with these people, then we're justified in our military action, right?
Maybe since we already got the oil from Venezuela, it's about draining out the oil supply so that we could sell the oil from Venezuela.
The other theory I've heard is that this is a way to get at China because China was getting a lot of oil from Venezuela and they're getting most of their oil from Iran. The US taking out Maduro and putting Rodriguez in Venezuela does not help China. She wants to play ball with the US. If I had to go out on a limb, I would say she probably cut a deal with the US. The US came to her and was like, we want Maduro gone. We'll work with you. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to run the show. We're going to get some of the oil. And she said, done, and fucking sold them out. I think that's probably what happened. Venezuela, for those who don't know, has the largest untapped oil reserves on the fucking planet. And I'm sure you know that because you brought it up. That's something that we're going to need. And we're going to need a lot of it. If you really wanted to fuck China up, you could just blow up Karg Island. Now you've eliminated Iran's capacity to put 90% of their barrels on the market. So if this is a way to get at China, the next logical, if you're following game theory, the next logical step is to destroy Iran's oil infrastructure. And the best way to do that is to blow up Karg Island. Just fucking blow it up, right? What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't think they're gonna blow up Clark Island. That would be catastrophic. That's immediate, like fucking. You gotta send ground troops in then if you blow up Clark Island.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, don't you think that Iran will just completely destroy the rest of the Gulf?
Yeah, they'd be sending missiles all over the fucking place.
They would probably destroy Saudi Arabia's oil fields. They would completely destroy Qatar's LNG
Desalination
fields,
plants.
desalination plants, so no one would have clean water. That would be a major humanitarian crisis for sure. No question.
Well, don't worry, the Red Cross would save the day.
No, what's going to happen is all these fucking people are going to come to US. That's what's going to happen. That's what always happens.
The Red
Whenever
Cross saves the day.
Yeah, the Red Cross. Oh, yeah, wonderful. I'm hoping we don't escalate further. Do you want to know what my actual hope is that Trump does with this conflict?
Yep.
I would tell Trump this is the key to getting the Strait of Hormuz reopened. You need to come out, do a press conference, and you go, it was a great total victory. We've completely eliminated their Navy and their Air Force. We've had total regime change, and now we are calling on our European allies to step up and get the Strait of Hormuz reopened. And then you withdraw American troops, and you let the Europeans cut a deal with the Iranians to reopen the strait. Oil prices come down, and then 2 months from now, everyone forgets. If we don't want this to escalate further, Trump is the king of spin. He's the king of marketing, right? The Trump brand is a big brand. Anything he puts his name on, he can market. He could say he's a master salesman. Nobody does anything like that. He always says, nobody knows nuclear better than me. Nobody respects women more than me. Everything is no one does anything better or more than Trump, right? So he's got to come out and he's got to put a total fucking spin on what was happening. And like I said, he's got to come out and just declare victory call it a crushing success, wrap up the operation, cite the fact that you got regime change, even though you really didn't. You still have the same regime in place. You just took out, you know, the top 50 leaders, but all the underlings or whatever, they're still a part of the same regime. They just took over. You have new faces, right? But it's still the same group of people. If you have 100 people, you kill half of them, and then the other half takes over. Still the same group of people. So he's got to come out and say, we got our regime change. We destroyed their navy. We destroyed their air force. We're calling on our European allies to step up and get the strait reopened. God bless America. And, now we're going to enjoy the World Cup. That's what he has to do.
I mean, nobody wants to see war. I think that's the best case scenario, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see Iran troops on the ground.
Yeah, that is my biggest fear right now. That genuinely is my biggest fear.
Well, I mean, be prepared for it because it's going to happen. I say oil is going to skyrocket to like 130.
Oil was at 130 like 2 weeks ago. So do you think it could spike further than that? Do you think we could see like 150, 170 a
Nah, because
barrel?
I think we start releasing the reserves and stuff like that to
Well, we
negate it,
did we did
bring it
tap
back
into the
down.
reserves pretty early on in the conflict, which helped float the pricing a little bit. So the US has the National Strategic Oil Reserves, right? But other countries also have oil reserves, by the way. Apparently, the IAEA, which is this international consortium of countries that, manage their energy needs and efficiency, they collectively work to release 400 million barrels of oil on the market. So that helped float the oil prices a little bit, and the US contributed, I believe, about 60 million of those 400 million barrels that were put on the market to help ease oil pricing. The UAE just left OPEC. And what's interesting is that the UAE leaving OPEC is actually pretty good for consumers, and it's pretty good for people who are buying oil because the UAE was putting like 3 million barrels a day on the market, and they've come out and they've said, well, we want to put 5 million a day on the market. So if you listen to really what I'm saying here, it's like they're calling for almost doubling their oil output daily. But I guess another thing I wanted to ask you about is this was a rumor, largely unsubstantiated, but I want your opinion on this. So Biden was releasing oil from the strategic reserves. And we've actually gotten to a point where our strategic reserves, like our national oil reserves, were the lowest they've been in many years because Biden just kept releasing barrels of oil and putting them on the market to drive down the price of oil and then ultimately drive down the cost of gasoline. So the conspiracy theory is that Trump cut a deal with Venezuela to get access to their oil because again, that's the largest untapped oil reserves in the world, Venezuela, so that we could rebuild our national strategic reserve.
That doesn't sound too far off. I mean, but doesn't have to be refined. I heard something like Venezuelan oil is not refined.
Yeah, it's not. That's a huge
So like
issue.
even if the like the Strait of Hormuz and everything like stays closed and gets cut off, how long does it take to refine the oil? And like what's the process?
That's a great question. I don't know too much about like some of the inner workings, but my understanding is that they don't have the infrastructure in place to just be able to drill and drill baby drill and get the oil on the market. I don't think they have the existing infrastructure. One of the big players down there, like one of the big American companies that has been operating down there even before Maduro took over, is Chevron, which used to be Standard Oil of California. They have a lot of business down there and they're committed to expanding, and they're also committed to just building out this robust infrastructure to be able to drill and get these barrels of oil on the market as quickly as possible. But they said it's going to take 5 or 10 years to build that out. If Chevron's saying it's going to take 5 to 10 years, that's probably pretty legit.
Maybe longer than that, maybe 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a conservative estimate, 5 to 10 years.